Hello, this is BattleCry, and what went wrong? There were a few key things in the development and design of BattleGrid that went wrong, evident from some of the usability issues we ran into. First and foremost, while I'm showing the tool, I'm not blaming the tool. This really was my inexperience with this tool. But something that did not get caught during the design phase really was all of the rigmarole around the various lists. So active games, storing, your active your active games that you're currently playing, pending games, holding games that are waiting for other people to join, open games being games that you can join, and so on. All of this menuing system really was just too much for the user. And as I'm going through this, you're probably picking out the problems that actually plagued me during my paper prototyping. And again, this is just my inexperience with the tool. I did not take out the notes when I put this in front of users. So there was all these little handy pop-up notes as they went through the interactive paper prototype, which really helped them get through it. Unfortunately, those paper notes weren't there during the game. So it was a really, I consider this a miss opportunity because not only did we have a miss on the menuing system, but as I get into gameplay itself, oh wow, look at all the notes. It probably should have been a huge indicator that I needed so many notes to describe how to maneuver around the map that I probably should have put a little bit more chin stroking into that process. So I'm just labeling this as sort of a miss on the paper prototyping. If I was very familiar with paper prototyping, not as familiar with the tool, so I think I put too much energy into learning the tool and not enough energy into actually producing the output that the tool was designed to help me. Now, since then, I've become much, much better with the tool, and it has given me the confidence to go through. The other side of it is just as since we're in the design and aesthetic side, the overall graphics look and feel. We had a miss there. My original intent was to use realistic textures of stone and wood, and when we threw those in, too harsh, too sharp. Of a UI, and we ended up backing up to a cartoonyish, like wood cartoons and stone, cartoony stone, and that felt a lot softer, considering the fact that I'm screaming at my opponent. Having an interface that harsh really didn't resonate well with the testers. So we had a couple of misses. The graphic side of it's not a real strength of mine to begin with. So I knew going in that we were going to have a general rescrub of the aesthetics, the graphics, the look and feel. The combat system of having to pick where you're coming from and where you're going to. Again, having all of the notes really hid the fact for me, and it was just situational blindness, right? So focused. Of course, I knew how to do it, so it was easy. Why can't everybody do it? Kind of problem that ultimately ended up plugging the project from the testing standpoint, but really worked out in the end. I think we've got a really strong result set that's going to come from it. The other big piece that I think is going to, or was really a driving force behind it, and I'll just to be able to show this, I'll pull this, and I consider this being a what went wrong, because it was one of the largest risks to the project, and I never really did come up with a great way to handle it. Let's see if we can zoom that out just to kind of show. This is my work calendar on any given day. To be honest with you, on any given month, I am packed from morning to afternoon on most days. Even on weekends from occasion, or entire swashes of days of travel. So one of the largest risks to the project, in my humble opinion, was my travel schedule from work. I never knew what the internet was going to be like, of where I was going. In some cases, I didn't know where I was going until just a few short days before I was on a plane to Mexico or on a plane to Ireland. So it was a huge risk to the project. And the only thing that really kind of saved us was the force multipliers, the project management portal. We were in such good shape with the game design document, such good shape with the way that we managed the milestones, that for any other project, having the lead developer out of pocket 50% of the time would have been decimating to a project. And there just was really no good solution to this. Unfortunately, it's just went wrong. It added stresses to the project that didn't need to be stressed, and it was just a real issue for me. One of the other things that I thought went wrong on the project was the componentization that Unity uses. Basically, stacking multiple components onto an object. I get the concept. Intellectually, I was able to follow it, but I just never really built a project that way. I'm used to everything being compartmentalized in its little folders, and I guess I could still have done that, but being able to drag those components onto objects is a muscle that I'm still working on. So there's nothing really buggy or broken in the code, but as far as house cleaning, some of our our components are quite large. 3,000 lines is not a great way to manage a piece of code. So that needs to go through a sort of a refactoring process and be revised, because I got to be compassionate not to myself, but if I hire a developer 6 months from now and they come into this trying to digest 3,000 lines of code, it's too much. So I'm just considering that went wrong. That was just one of those things that started to run away from itself, and I was still learning how to access data from various other components within a particular scene. So, and even now, still building muscles around that construct. It's very different, really, from an approach of how you design your parts and pieces and breaking it down modular. That's just something I'm going to have to get a little bit more experience on. So I'm considering that a definite what went wrong area. In the testing early on, kind of tripped and stumbled over the first couple of testing sessions. Getting some folks in, wasn't prepared. The multiple devices, trying to support iOS and Android, not realizing that I needed to put the devices in a specific state, like everybody turn your audio on and your volume up. It's pretty critical for this game to have sound. So the first couple of testing sessions went a little hokey, but we were able to course correct and build some formalized processes around that really on testing sessions 3 and 4 were very well streamlined. But in such a short project where I only had about a total of 4 testing sessions, to miss the first one, I think, was a huge miss, and testing number 2 was perfecting. I'm a huge believer in IPM, but test number 2 was still perfecting the process and getting my standards down. That means almost 50% of the testing wasn't ideal, right? So unfortunately, I have to just chalk that up to that was just me not properly being prepared to do the testing and getting all of my folks in a room and not being aware of the testing devices. I think ideally I would have liked to have had provided the devices to my testers. They were in a known state, known condition. But the alternative is, even though it was a bit scrambled, I still got some really good actionable information, particularly around the login process, that we were able to revise and make sure that that was going to be working going forward. So anyway, as far as what went wrong, we had a couple of trips in the testing. The code needs some good refactoring. My schedule was a train wreck, and I just think that we probably could have done a better job on the planning and caught some of these major issues earlier in the design phase, and we just weren't able to do it. So, thank you.